Let's do a really quick review of everything that we learned in this tutorial. Now, the first thing is this image is really washed out. It's very muddy. So what we want to do is we want to go to the image menu and we want to go to auto tone, and we're going to give that a try first. And normally that will fix our images. If they're kind of washed out and they just look a little bit dull, choosing auto tone, and in CS3 by the way, it's under image adjustments, auto levels, and it's in this area. But when you do auto levels, Photoshop tries to automatically set the levels for you. And most of the time with a normal photo, it does a great job. Because this has this little tear here and these white edges and this tear, it's not really working. So I'm going to undo that by doing Control Z. And let's go and look at the histogram and set the levels ourselves. Under levels, here we have a histogram. And this histogram shows that there are missing pixels in the black area. You can see there is no information in this bottom edge. So this is missing pixels in this darker areas of the image. It's also really missing pixels in the right hand side in the white or the lighter area of the image. But the reason that we're seeing some information here, we're seeing that it has some white, is just because of these tears and these rips that are, bringing that white into the image. So what we want to do is we just simply want to take this little point here, our black point, and set it to the end of the mountain. And we do the same thing with our white point. We kind of gauge it by eye. And normally I'll try and play with the midtones just a little bit too and get that the way that I'd like it. And now we simply choose OK. So now we've fixed the levels in the image. And the next thing that we did was we learned about the clone stamp. With the clone stamp tool, basically what we need to do is we hold Alt and we select the part of the image we want to copy from. And then we let go of the Alt key and we simply move up here and we just click and start painting. And it works a lot like a paintbrush that copies from another part of the image. Okay, so we can do the same thing here, and you can see that the plus sign shows me where it's copying from. The other thing that we learned was how to add a new layer to the image, and so we can simply click here to add a new layer, and then we can begin to paint on the images. Now the first thing that we need to do, we can see this image is in grayscale. We need to be in RGB in order to choose colors. Okay, if I choose a color and it doesn't show the color, it shows gray, that means I'm in the wrong mode. Okay, Photoshop doesn't have colors. So what I got to do is tell image to go to mode, RGB, and I'm going to choose don't flatten. And now you can see that I get colors in my image. Okay, so I'm going to simply choose a red here on that layer. I can start painting with the paintbrush. And once I paint, I can change the blending mode of the layer to color, and you can see that that kind of puts the color into the image. It leaves the lights in the dark areas, but it changes the color. And this is called changing the blending mode of the layer. And for this particular task, using color or overlay is usually most effective. Now the other thing that we talked about was changing the hue and saturation. If I don't like this shade of red on this layer, I can do Control U, and I can change the hue back and forth, and you can see that I can change all of the color on this particular layer. Now in this project we also added a new layer for every color so that we could continue to modify the colors. If we have, for example, let's just show you really quick what happens if you didn't follow the instructions. If I put green and red on the same layer, then when I do Control U to change the hue and saturation, look, it changes both colors. And that's why we split them up and we made a different layer for every color on the image. Okay? So the other thing that we did was we played around with the canvas size. We learned how to crop, and we can crop by just choosing the selection tool and doing image crop. And we can also choose the crop tool and simply draw the area that we want to choose and then hit the enter key, or click the check mark here to crop the image. And lastly, we learned how to change the canvas size by going to image, canvas size, and with the canvas size options we can either choose to add the canvas that we're adding all the way around our image. Let's change this to percentages. I can take 110, go to 110%, and I can add that all the way around my image. Okay? Or image canvas size, I can choose, and when I go back here to percentages, if I click on this side, then it's only going to stretch to the right. We show that canvas is only growing to the right. So I tell it OK, and now all of that change only happened in one direction. Okay, so make sure that you know how to change the canvas size for moving it all the way around the canvas and also to add it to just one side or the other. The last thing that we talked about was viewing in proof mode. Oops. Viewing in proof, soft proof. So go to view, proof colors. Look at how the green changed there. Okay, you see how bright it is here. Watch this, view proof colors. That's a huge difference. Okay, on paper we can't get that bright of a green color. Okay, so proofing or soft proofing shows us how the image is going to print out on a particular printer. Okay, on the printer we're going to get different colors than screen, and soft proofing by going to view proof colors shows us what it's going to print like. The last thing that we can do is we can show print size and see what it will print like at the current resolution. Lastly, we discussed flattening the image and how flattening the image causes us to lose the ability to edit all of the different editable things. We can't modify our layers as individual layers anymore. We can't edit text. We can't make any of our adjustment layers change. So flattening images is really not a very good idea. Normally what we'll do is just save for web and choose a JPEG for a photograph. The other thing that I wanted to bring out really quick is that we also talked just a little bit about adding text, and that can easily be done by just clicking on the text tool. You can change the color and the size and all this. We're going to spend a lot more time on text in another future tutorial, but we did kind of touch on just the basics. So that's pretty much it for this tutorial. Make sure that you understand all of these concepts, and go ahead and look at the study guide, the project page that you got this tutorial, that you watched this tutorial on and got the image, and make sure that under concepts learned you've got all of those completely understood.